I really enjoy Kill la Kill as a series, and I really enjoy Studio Trigger's work. When Kill la Kill first came out, I thinking, man, the dudes behind Gurren Lagann, they're gonna team up together and do their own anime again. It's gonna be insane. And Kill la Kill definitely was insane. That's probably the best word to describe the series. And I love the show to death. I've watched Kill la Kill a number of times, and it's just one of those shows that never get old to me. Like, you can continuously watch it and it's still fun because the characters just exude this energy. The music's fantastic. The characters are all fun. The animation is really good. And on top of that, the English dub and the Japanese voice actors are bringing their A game, which is insane, right? Kill la Kill is such an amazing series. But I will say this, Kill la Kill is not an anime for everyone. And its very first video game, Kill la Kill If, definitely wasn't a video game for everyone. Kill la Kill If was developed by a studio known as A+, and the major release they had was a game known as Little Witch Academia: The Chamber of Time, right? So they really don't have much to their name, but they did work directly close with Studio Trigger themselves and Arc System Works to create this game, which is an arena fighter for the PlayStation 4, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. Now, obviously, I was going to enjoy a Kill la Kill game. There was no way that, like, it was just hype, you know? The hype was insane. Kill la Kill getting its very first game was pretty cool, and we can only imagine what it could have been, right? Now, a lot of people were skeptical when it was revealed as an arena fighter, because arena fighters have this stigma where it's just, a lot of people don't like arena fighters, you know? They would prefer a traditional fighting game, and I would have loved a Kill la Kill fighting game, like a 2D fighting game, but we just don't live in that time. Not yet. Maybe in the future, but not now. But the point is, it was clear that the development on this game was kind of wonky because the way, you know, just the overall, like the graphics look and certain aspects about the game itself. And for what I've read of interviews and stuff, A+ did have some issues with coming with this game idea. They didn't know, like, they tossed around like 3 different ideas of what this game was going to be, and it definitely reflects in the game itself. But despite my issues with Kill la Kill If it's a game, I'm not going to go through all of them in this video. I personally believe I thoroughly enjoyed the game. Not that many people did, though. A lot of people really didn't enjoy the game. They don't even talk about it no more. They don't even think about it and play it no more. But I personally still like Kill la Kill If, and I have fun playing it because it's actually a really good, you know, arena fighter. If one thing I could give Kill la Kill If credit, it's at least a good arena fighter. Despite there's some jankiness about it, I think the game's actually really fun to play, and I really wish that this game could have got more to it in regards of like gameplay changes and stuff like that. Because I really believe that, you know, if they added more mechanics to the game and added more, you know, moves to the characters, I think things would have been much better than they were now. Now, content for Kill la Kill If is very, I guess I could call it small. The story mode is super quick to get to. Even though you have 2 characters and 2 different paths with Ryuko and Satsuki, the story mode is very easy to go to. But I really like how the story mode has a unique turn, where it has 2 paths focusing on Ryuko and Satsuki, but the idea of the story mode was written by one of the writers for Kill la Kill, right? So it's pretty funny to see that they're so involved that they're writing like a story path for Ryuko and Satsuki, where Satsuki is essentially the protagonist. She's essentially the protagonist of Kill la Kill If, right? Because most of the focus is on Satsuki, though Ryuko does come in and save the day and all that stuff. Satsuki is the main focus, which I really like, because it's kind of funny seeing, like, oh, what would happen if Kill la Kill if Satsuki was the main character, that sort of thing. And I think the story mode did a pretty decent job. Again, some of the jankiness and the weird look at the characters do come off more in the story mode. But I think the voice work carries it so hard that you can pretty much ignore it. Though sometimes you can't. It looks cheap, especially in the story mode aspect, because, you know, just going through it just looks weird. Like, you're sitting down, you're just looking at it, and you're like, oh, okay, nothing works how it's supposed to, nothing looks how it's supposed to. But I like how the story mode handled, like, at least Satsuki, because Satsuki Kiryuin is one of my favorite anime characters ever. So it's nice to see, you know, her expanded role as essentially the main character of this game. And there's a bunch of other things you can do in this game as well. Just a digital figure mode, you can screw around with stuff. You can go in the gallery mode and, you know, just unlock like music from the anime, which you can't play in matches because I get copyright and stuff like that. But you can listen to music from the anime. There's some developer comments from like the English voice actors that will tell you like, hey, this is where we were on the game. People ask them Q&A questions, and they answer stuff about that in like the characters' voices, which I think is really, really funny. There's a bunch of horde battles in the form of cover battles where you have to fight a bunch of the covers. So yeah, there's a bunch of stuff to do. It's just not much diversity because a lot of the cover battles are exactly the same. It's just with more, so they're not essentially just different modes. They're more like modes with more than the previous mode, if that makes sense. And the digital figure mode is fine. It's just very limiting, and gallery stuff is very limiting too. But now, as for the roster in the game, the roster is very small, and I think that was one main criticism about the game itself. The roster is pretty small. Like, you have obviously Ryuko and Sasuke, you have the Elite Four, which will make 6 characters already, right? And then you have Nui and Ragyo, which makes 8. And then you have Nudist Beach and Mako being released as DLC, which is free. They're free DLC, which is good. And that makes 10 characters. And if you want to count dual wield Sasuke and dual wield Ryuko, that makes 12. Though their move sets aren't totally, different. They do have like same animations and same moves in some cases, but they kind of play like different characters, so you can essentially count them as different characters. So if you were to count dual wield Sasuke and dual wield Ryuko, that's essentially like two separate. I guess there's 2 separate characters. So that would make 12 characters on the roster. Now, I understand there's a lot of issues with the roster, and I will say this now. And I started thinking about, okay, they could add club presidents like Omiko Hakodate. I like this character so much, and I'm genuinely surprised she didn't even make it a game as a fighter. But again, she would have been great in the game. Rei Holomaru, who is Ragyo's secretary, she could have made it into the game. She doesn't really show much of like combat stuff, but they could have put her in there and just work it out somehow. Or they could have added Kaneo Takarada and his Golden Crab DTR. I think there's a lot more characters they could have added into this game. And with just those 3 alone, that makes 15 characters if you're counting dual wield Sasuke and dual wield Ryuko as separate characters. So that's 15, right? There's also 2 more characters I wanted to put in, and that would be Senketsu Kisaragi Ryuko and Junketsu Shinzui Sasuke. Now, Junketsu Shinzui is essentially Sasuke's final form, her counterpart to Senketsu Kisaragi, right? And the thing about that is that this was specifically for this game, right? Now, the form was drawn out in, I think, an art book, and it was revealed before the game came out, and they was like, let's put it in the game. Why not? There's the only chance we're ever going to use Junketsu Shinzui. We might as well put it in Kill la Kill If. So, yeah, you could actually play as Ryuko and Sasuke in their final forms in the story mode, but you only play them once in the final battle, which it's fun to play as them, but it sucks that, you don't get to play with them outside of that, because if you did, that would be 17 characters. Granted, that would just be 3 Ryukos and 3 Sasukes, but at least these ones have different movesets. So, that sucks, but, whatever. I would prefer them. I just don't know why they even bother making movesets, and they really advertise Junketsu Shinzui a lot with Satsuki, and it bugs me that she wasn't even playable in the game. That's so weird. It's like making a fighting game and you're promoting this cool new character that you're making for it. Like for example, let's use Dragon Ball FighterZ as an example. Android 21 was a character made uniquely for this game, right? If they advertised her a lot, they showed her off a lot. If she was just in the game story mode and wasn't playable in any fashion, I think that would have been weird, right? So that's what I feel about with Junketsu Shinzui Sasuke. Like, why even bother giving her this final form and then advertising if you're not going to use her? And there's another thing too, like what about, we get the Elite Four here as well. We have all 4 members, but we don't have them in their other Goku uniforms. We have them in their original Goku uniforms, but they had essentially 2 more versions of Goku uniforms, as the series went on. And I'm not saying you should add 2 variants of each of them, because that would just create 3 versions of each one, right? I feel like they could have added the final forms of them, like the very, very final forms at the end of the series. They could have used those, and they could have different move sets, so they could have to be different, at least play differently, right? At least play somewhat differently. And if we're adding Junketsu Shinzui Sasuke and Senketsu Kisaragi Ryuko, that makes 17. But if we ever add these essentially 4 more versions of the Elite Four, that will be 21 characters. Now, granted, there'll be a lot of clones there, but at least it'll be 21 characters. I feel like people would be less harsh on the roster that way. But yeah, that's really all I really wanted to say about Kill la Kill If. I personally like the game. It's fun to play. It's it's really fun game to play. but it just didn't get the love and support that I was really anticipating for Kill la Kill's first game. I'm not saying that it feels like a cash grab or anything like that, because a lot of games just released it for the sole sake of making money. But the fact that they work for Arc System Works, the fact that these Studio Trigger, like the writers of Studio Trigger, actually wrote a story for Sasuke, the fact that they added so many references in the game itself, this was not a cheap cash grab. This was actually something that was made with at least love and attention to detail, right? It just didn't get the budget, and it didn't get more time put into it, right? I feel like the budget is the main issue with this game, right? Game is mechanically sound. It just needed a higher budget. It needed more time for it, and definitely needed a bigger roster. I know my roster ideas probably aren't the best, but I feel like adding the club presidents and some other minor characters like Kaneo Takarada and Omiko Hakadade, at the very least, could have made the roster, more expansive. At the very least, because again, even with like Mako and Nudist Beach, who were released later, right? They were released later after the game's launch. That's only 10 characters, and I'm glad they're free, but that's only 10 characters in the roster. And again, if you're adding Sasuke and Ryuko dual wielding forms, that's 12, but that's not really much to talk about. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I hope A Plus does get more work. I hope they get more of a budget next time if they decide to do something else, because I hope they work with Arc System Works again, because they have a good mechanically sound game there. I just want to see what more they can bring to the table, because if Arc System Works is willing to work with Trigger to make a new Kill la Kill game, I'm all for it. Arc System Works is willing to work with Way Forward to make it a Ruby game, and they've worked with Rooster Teeth in the past to put Ruby characters in place with cross-tag battles, so anything's possible. So yeah, without further ado, I'll see y'all next time. Peace out, everyone. Hope you all have a great day. I'm out. I'm going to play more Kill la Kill F, because I just kind of have to at this point.